First of all, I'd like to offer you all my warm greetings. The full moon of last month was the anniversary of Karmapa Rangjung Dorje. So I had the thought that I ought to say a bit about his life and liberation, but there was not enough time. And for another thing, the same day was also the parinirvana of Gampopa, the crown jewel of all the Kagyu lineages. So I thought it was important to give a short introduction to the story of Gampopa's life and liberation. And so I postponed Rangjung Dorje's life and liberation story till today. Today is the Mid-Autumn Festival in the Chinese tradition, and also the anniversary of Rangjung Dorje's face appearing in the moon is connected to the full moon. So I thought it'd be appropriate to give an introduction to the life of Rangjung Dorje today. Now, among all of the incarnations of the Karmapa, the Lord of Dharma, Rangjung Dorje, is among those of the greatest activity. He studied the sutras and tantras, ancient and new mantra, and all the major and minor fields of knowledge with 113 different gurus, including Khedrup Urjimpa, Nyere Kendun Bum, Nyedoa Kungun Tundup, and the Kempo of Sambu Shakya Shunu, Gyagum Yeshur, Terten Shor, Gyalse Lekpa, and others. And it is said that among all the sutras and tantras, ancient and new tantras, and major and minor fields of knowledge in Tibet at that time, there was none that he had not studied and did not know. It'd be fair to say that among all the Karmapas, he was the one with the broadest learning. Likewise, I think it would be important say that he was the one who had the greatest influence on the Karma Kagyu philosophical tradition, aside from Mikyo Dorje. Likewise, Rangjung Dorje was an individual who had a great influence not only on the Karma Kamsan, but on all of Tibetan Buddhism and Tibetan learning in general. In particular, he had great influence on the Nyingma, Shiche, and the approach and accomplishment of the three Vajras. Likewise, if we think about the emphasizing the Shentong view or the view of the Buddha nature school, Rangjung Dorje preceded Kunchen Dolpopa in Tibet. And he also wrote the Compendium of Astrology, which is one of the earliest astrological texts based on the Kalachakra Tantra. And so therefore, he also had a strong influence on Tibetan astrology. He also wrote a treatise called The Ocean of Names of Medicine, which lists 830 different medicines and their efficacies. This is one of the longest medical texts in Tibet at that time. Many later Tibetan medical scholars considered it a reliable source, and it is cited in many herbals. So he also had a great influence on Tibetan medicine. He also added to Acharya Ashwaghosh's 34 Jataka tales to write the 100 Jataka tales, which, as one of the great early long poems in Tibet, had a great influence on literature. Now, in terms of practice, there are many places throughout all of Tibet where Rangjung Dorje did retreat. Likewise, the monasteries he founded are unlike ordinary monasteries. They are mostly places for retreat. He had many students who achieved high levels of experience and realization, including 80 realized disciples. And this is one of his greatest legacies. Now, there are many stories concerning all of this, but because of time, I'm not able to speak about them all. But I will be able to speak about them on next year's anniversary of his face appearing in the moon and on other occasions. In brief, the Lord of Dharma Rangjung Dorje is known as the first tulku in the land of Tibet. And I think that in terms of his deeds and activity, He is also the best example for everyone who has been given the title of a tulku. Today, I thought I might see if I could say a few words about three topics among all of the stories about Rangjung Dorje. These are the miraculous events of his birth and early childhood, how he was the first Tibetan tulku, and how his face appeared in the moon. For the first two of these, the stories of the miraculous events around his birth and how he is the first Tibetan tulku, I will relate them mostly according to an old manuscript of the Lord of Dharma, Rangjung Dorje's life, up until he went to China, that was written by his direct disciple, Shirab Rinchen. I have received a copy of it and will use that as a basis. I will describe the third section according to some other reliable stories and histories. Traditionally, we say that the first Karmapa was Dusun Khenpa, the second was Karma Pakchi, and the third was Rangjung Dorje. But unlike the later Karmapas, Karma Pakchi was not said to be Dusun Khenpa's Nirmanakaya or reincarnation and recognized and enthroned, as that tradition had not developed at that time. However, Karma Pakshi himself said that he was Dusun Khenpa's Nirmanakaya or reincarnation. So the way we know that is that he wrote an autobiography called The Account of Realization of the Three Times Are Timeless and Perfecting Great Powers. What he writes in there is that in Lord Dusun Khenpa's story, he says that in the future, in the seven holy places of Tibet, someone would appear for the benefit of one disciple. Then someone would appear near the Drecha River and fulfill some of his intentions. And then after 2 or 3 lifetimes, there'd be someone who would bring the householder Gompawa onto the true path. So these three were so in order to fulfill these three intentions of Lord Dusun Khenpa, I am now known by the name of Karmapa. I was born with mindfulness awareness in the line of emperors in the Tree Valley, a land rich in the true Dharma. In any case, he's explaining how he took birth in accord with the predictions of Lord Dusun Khenpa's last intimate. He also describes in the same autobiography how they're the same in the mind stream. So he's saying the one known as Dusun Khenpa in the past and the present Dharmakaya status Rangjung Dorje are different in name, and they are different times, but in actuality they are the same in essence. In other words, he is saying that they have the same mind stream. Now, there's quite a bit to say about this topic, and I should say them all, but I will not be able to. Now, when we say Rangjung Dorje here, Karma Pakchi's secret name was Rangjung Dorje, as I shall explain later. It is also written the liberation story of Karma Pakchi by Lord Dusun Khenpa's direct disciple Pomdrapa, that from the time Karmapa met his guru Pomdrapa, Pomdrapa had many pure visions of him as Dusun Khenpa. Likewise, Karma Pakchi also restored all 3 monastic seats founded by Dusun Khenpa and spread the teachings there. And so for Dusun Khenpa's students and their students, it was no different than it would have been had Dusun Khenpa come himself. And his followers thus unanimously accepted that he was the Nirmanakaya of Dusun Khenpa. So I believe that just because there was no custom at that time of recognizing and enthroning him as a tulku, as we do today, but the lack of a custom of doing this does not mean that he was not a reincarnation and not a tulku. For example, it is just as how in many Jataka tales of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, there was no one to recognize them or enthrone them. But that doesn't mean that they were not incarnations of the Buddhas or Bodhisattvas. So when we look at the histories and biographies, it seems that there was no widespread custom of calling Lord Dusun Khenpa the Karmapa. The Feast for Scholars and other texts relate how when Dusum Khyentse went forth, he had a pure vision of the Dakinis empowering him as the embodiment of the activity of the Buddhas and giving him the title Karmapa. And so he had this pure vision of this, and we can infer from this that the title Karmapa, it was a secret name of his, not a widely used name. It was only during the time of the second Karmapa that the title Karmapa became widely used. For this reason, Karmapakshi called himself by the well-known name of Karmapa. Moreover, the secret name of one Karmapa often became the actual name of the next incarnation. There are many examples of this. For example, Karmapakshi's secret name was Rangjung Dorje, and the name Rangjung Dorje became the generally known name for the third Karmapa. The third Karmapa Rangjung Dorje's secret name is Rilpe Dorje, and that also became the generally known for the fourth Karmapa. So there are several such examples. So for these reasons, these days, we sometimes confuse the works of Karmapakshi for each other's. And the reason is that they would both use the name Rangjung Dorje when they signed works, which led to this confusion. However, the great master Karma Chakme wrote in his guidebook to the Karma Gun monastery that it was said that Karmapakshi was called Karmapa because he stayed at the Karma Gun monastery. So perhaps this was said in order to show the greatness of Karma Gun, or perhaps it was because the founder of Karma Gun was Dusum Khyentse. And so really, if someone should have been called the Karmapa, it should have been Dusum Khyentse. Perhaps it was because Karmapakshi had spent a long time at Karma Gun. Or perhaps there is some other reason for this, but this all needs to be investigated. However, I have not seen any similar account in the other well-known histories of the Karma Kamtsang. So in brief, when we look at history in detail, the first one widely known as the Karmapakshi was Karmapa was Karmapakshi. If we count the holders of the Black Crown, the first is Dusum Khyentse. And if we count the one first recognized as a tulku, then Rangjung Dorje is the first. So there is a prediction by Dusum Khyentse that 3 with black crowns will come here to Tsurpu. So I think that this comes down to the same point as that. Likewise, Lord Mikyo Dorje wrote in his commentary on Yogatantra, these days in the Tapo Kagyu, there are 2 who are undisputed to have the eye of Dharma in Sutra and Tantra, Rangjung Dorje and Bhutan. The first, Rangjung Dorje, the omniscient Rangjung Dorje, is the second to bear the title Karmapa and the third bearer of the Black Crown. So I think that in this passage, Mikyo Dorje was being very precise in relating the history. So I think this is important for us to keep in mind. Now, another particular feature of the Karmapas is wearing the black crown. And I believe that the tradition of wearing the black crown began during the time of Dusum Khyentse. The reason for saying this is that in Dusum Khyentse's collected works, there is a text called the 3 Mixings. Now, this text is notes that a direct disciple of Dusum Khyentse took on teachings that Dusum Khyentse gave. And therein it says, think that above your crown there is a round moon disk. Meditate that on top of it there is your root guru, invisible from the Lord of Dharma, Dusum Khyentse, with a white hair and a black crown with the nature of light. So at that time, students had the custom of visualizing Dusum Khyentse wearing a black crown. Likewise, in Karma Pakshi's autobiography called The Account of Realizing the Three Times Are Timeless and Perfecting Great Powers, he writes that Lord Dusum Khyentse was blessed as the self-wisdom emanated by Indra Bodhi. So in all his disciples' perception, he appeared as inconceivable emanations and magical displays like reflections in a mirror. Because of the same essence as the Brahmansaraha, he wore, as a symbol of the unchanging Dharma nature, a black crown with gold blades, such as had never appeared in the world before. Co-emergent wisdom cannot be illustrated by various symbols. As this says, he wore a black crown of either damask or silk with a gold blaze that was previously unknown. And when Karmapa Mika Dorje spoke about the black crown, he cited a passage from an old liberation story of Dusum Khyentse that reads, he wore a black hat of black damask with the designs of a heap of round flowers. Likewise, he also said that among the various depictions of Dusum Khyentse from the Great Encampment and his monastic seats, there are many that show him wearing a black crown. Now, there are many other stories that are related with this matter, but this is not the main topic for today, so today I will not say any more than this. Now, after this, to speak about the actual life and liberation of Rangjung Dorje, the first is the miraculous events of his birth and early childhood. Now, if you ask, when was he born? The Dharma Lord Rangjung Dorje was born on the 8th day of the first Tibetan month of the Wood Monkey year in the 5th cycle, or 1284. And he passed away on the 14th day of the 6th month of the Earth Hare year of the 6th cycle. And so thus he was a great Tibetan Lama of the 13th century. His birthplace was near Longkhor in Upper Dingri. His father's name was Trungpa Tripal, and his mother's name was Chomo Yangzhen. And when Rangjung Dorje was little, he was called by the name Chugyap Pel. Now, when he was born, the miraculous events that occurred is that first, as soon as he was born, he knelt down, he wiped his face with his hands, and then gazed fixedly on the moon. And he said, this is the moon of the 8th day. Now, at that time, there was his aunt, his mother's sister, was there at the time. And this aunt who was nearby heard him say this, and she immediately said, for a baby to speak immediately after birth is a bad sign, she said. It would be better to get rid of him, she said. And his parents said, how could we do that? That wouldn't be right. This child came from our own flesh. How can we get rid of him? They said. And his aunts then said, so if that is so, then you should go. You can't stay here. You should go stay somewhere else, wherever you're going. So they weren't allowed to stay in the house, and they had to go stay in a cow barn, a barn where there was a lot of cattle. Now, Chugyap Pel, when he was a little baby, he was, whoever looked at him, they saw him as being really pretty and really cute. And everyone adored him. And everyone said, oh, this child can't be yours, they'd say. Because he was so cute. He had such a beautiful face. They'd say, he's not your child. And they'd all take him on in their own labs and cuddle him and give him a lot to eat and drink. Then when he was about 2 or 3 years old, he said, I need a black hat that looks like this, he said. And so he took some black felt and he made a hat out of it. And then wherever they went, whatever place they went to, he would wear that hat. He'd make a small throne out of rocks, and then he'd gather all the children of the area, and he'd teach them the pointing out the three kayas. Karma Pakshi had often given the pith instructions of pointing out the three kayas, and so because of his previous imprints, he had not forgotten the Dharma. It was clear in his mind. And at that time, he would say a verse, and the verse would read, says, I've realized that these appearances, this manifold display, though they appear, are empty of truth. I feel compassion for you children who have not realized that they are just like illusions, mirages, or rainbows. And so this is said to be the first verse that he ever said. Now, one time he went with his mother to a place where they're holding a feast. And now that at the feast, the people would give out gifts. And at that time, he got 3 pieces of silk. But someone really kind of bold and audacious, took away the gifts that he had been given. And his mother got very sad and started to cry. At that point, her son, Chukyapel, said, you don't need to cry over 3 pieces of silk. I've got a big box of tsurpo that is filled with silks. I can give you whatever you'd like. And so they said that this is the first time in his life that he spoke from clairvoyance. One time, his father was carrying him on his shoulders, and as they were going down the road, in front of them, there was a flock of sheep. And when his father saw the flock of sheep, then he immediately thought, if I had so many sheep as that, then I'd be really happy, he thought. And then immediately his son said, have you fallen in love with the sheep? And the father said, oh, I have, the father said. And then the child said, if you're so smitten by wealth, there's a place in eastern Tibet, in Kham, where I have that many horses. So I can give them to you in the future. And his father was just astounded to hear him say this. And he said, you can read you know what's up in your mind. So who are you? His father was just astounded and asked him. And then the son said, I'm the rebirth of Rinpoche Karmapa. And then when he said this, his father, Tumpa, remembered something that had happened in the past. He remembered how in the past, Rinpoche Karmapa gave me a gift and said to me, Tumpa, I'm going to come and borrow your house for a while. And so when he said that, he probably was talking about this. And then immediately, he felt great conviction that the child was the reincarnation of Karma Pakshi. Then after some time, their household was actually rather poor. They didn't have a lot to eat and drink. And so one day, his father, Tumpa, got really hungry. And he thought, if I just get enough to eat and drink, wouldn't it be wonderful? And that's when he thought this, then his son knew, and he said, so are you thinking so much about food today? When he said, I am. So then is it be okay for you to go around saying that I am Rinpoche Karmapa's rebirth? And then his father said, okay, I can do as you say. Then the child said, if we go across this river, and over there's this village, and if we go there, we'll get a lot to eat and drink. So his father took him and went over to that village on the other side of the river. And when they got there, it was at the same time as they're having a feast. And when they got to there, they got a lot to eat and a lot to drink. And then since they got so much to eat and drink that the father, Tumpo, was really happy, and he drank a bit of beer. And after he drank some beer, he got drunk, and then he got a little bit of courage, and he said to everyone, "My little son says that he's the rebirth of Rinpoche Karmapa." And he told everything that he had said before. And when he told them to everyone, that everyone was just astounded, and they all prostrated to the boy and asked for his blessings. Now, at that time, there was a well-known Dharma teacher from Tu named Ketsun Serkampa. He heard about the situation. He immediately came to meet the child, and when he met him, he asked him about this. And when he asked him, then he took notes on this, and this became what is called the Bardo liberation story. This is a description of the events that happened to Rangjung Dorje between the time when he had, after he had passed away as Karma Pakche and then taken rebirth as Rangjung Dorje. Likewise, his father Tumpa practiced Shiche or Chu. He was very good at this, and so from a very early age, the child received the So tradition and other transmissions of Shiche from his father. He also received the empowerments of the Nyingma Yangdat Heroka and Vajrakulaya from two mantra practitioners. So this is a brief account of the miraculous events of his birth and early childhood. So next I'd like to speak in brief about how he became the first tulku in Tibet. Now, the custom of recognizing tulkus is a particular feature of Tibetan Buddhism. Generally, when we say tulku or nirmanakaya, this is actually a term for one of the kayas of a Buddha in the appearance of a body or a form kama, in which the Buddha works for the benefit of others. And there are many different types of nirmanakayas or tulkus. Noble bodhisattvas can also similarly display various emanations for the benefit of others. And even ordinary individuals can make emanations through the power of samadhi, it is said. But only Buddhas have actual nirmanakayas. But they generally do not happen for noble bodhisattvas or ordinary individuals. But because they can be similar to the tulkus, they can all be called by the name tulkus. Now, when we talk about a reunification is a kind of the opposite of being a nirmanaka or tulku. Ordinary beings take rebirth in samsara repeatedly because of karma and the afflictions. Noble bodhisattvas take rebirth because of compassion and aspirations. And Buddhas effortlessly appear to take birth for the sake of others. Even ordinary individuals, if during their own lifetimes or at the time of the day, if they have really strong wishes and impetus and intentions, and they make aspirations, then they can be reborn in the place where they wish. And this is described clearly in the Sutra, the Features of Sukhavati, and other sutras. In brief, the existence of past and future lives is accepted by all Buddhists. And it is described in many authoritative scriptures common to all vehicles that the Buddha Shakyamuni told the stories of his own previous lives and also described the past and future lives of other individuals. So thus the mere recognition of past and future lives was not a Tibetan innovation. However, the tradition of a great being continuously sustaining the teachings and beings in a string of lifetimes seems to have begun with the Lord of Dharma Rangjung Dorje. It then gradually spread widely and very widely in all the Tibetan traditions, both major and minor. And so thus it is said in Tibet that we suffer more when a tulku does not appear than when the Lama passes away. Now, there are many different ways that tulkus are recognized, but it's not the main topic for today, so I shall not speak about them now. In any case, it is unnecessary to say But there are levels of greater and lesser among the tulkus who are recognized. But I think that most of the tulkus who have appeared historically have brought strong benefit to Buddhism and the sentient beings. And I believe that this is why the tradition of recognizing tulkus has continued to this day. Now, if you wonder who it was who recognized the Lord of Dharma Rangjung Dorje as Karma Pakchi's tulku, it was Urgyenpa Rinchen. He was a direct disciple of the Mahasiddha Gutsampa of the Drukpa Kagyu lineage, and he also had great experience and realization. He was a great siddha. And at that time, he had traveled to both India and China. So one could say that he was, among everyone in Tibet, he was the one with the broadest knowledge and experience. So he was a general siddhi, a real siddhi who had achieved realization. And so he did as he liked, and he didn't worry about what others thought. He didn't even try to accommodate people such as the Emperor Kublai Khan. At the beginning, Urgyenpa did not have a particular connection to Karma Pakchi, but around the time that Karma Pakchi was soon to pass away, Drupchen Urgyenpa and 70 disciples heard of Rinpoche Karmapa's face and went in particular to see him. And at that time, they came to the place called the U Mountain in the north. Now, this is probably near the area of Yangpa-chen. And Urgyenpa at that said, they say that Karmapa has clairvoyant powers, so let's go and see it. So let's go tonight to Tsurpu. And so they all put extra effort into going during the all night. But at that time, Karma Pakchi knew this, and during the middle of the night, he called all the monks and he said, Urgyenpa is coming, so everyone should go and welcome him. So basically at dawn, the monks went out carrying banners and parasols, and they went to the Canada to welcome him. And there is this place called Maitreya's Dharmathran near Tsurpu. This is a sacred site near Tsurpu. It's the place where there was the vision of Maitreya, where Maitreya come there when Karma Pakchi consecrated the great Buddha statue at Tsurpu. So this is a sacred place there. And they went to that. When they got to that point, then Urgyenpa and his party also arrived, and they came at the same time. And because of that time, the Urgyenpa thought, oh, the Karmapa really must have clairvoyant powers. And he had a little bit of pride, and so it first began to decrease at that point. And then they went inside to meet Karma Pakchi. Then the Rinpoche Karma Pakchi said, should I make you both and masters act like hares in panic? Oh, excuse me, should we stir you up stir you up like in a pot? And they said, please do. They said, and they responded, and Karma Pakchi immediately took a deep breath, held it, did a gaze, and then immediately Urgyenpa and his disciples, without any, uncontrollably started to dance. And they began to dance like that. And a little bit later, Rinpoche said, oh, that's enough. Now you can all sit down. And so until he said that, they were unable to stop. And so this also decreased more of Urgyenpa's pride. Then that same evening, Urgyenpa and his party had a Ganachakra, and they had a little bit of the Ganachakra liquor, and they got drunk and must have fallen asleep. When they slept, then there was a dog who came and stole the meat of the Ganachakra. But they didn't know that. The next morning, very early in the morning, they went to have breakfast with Karma Pakchi. And Karma Pakchi said, and did you know that a dog stole the meat for your Ganachakra? And at that time, I thought, wow, there's no limit to Karma Pakchi's clairvoyant powers. And Urgyenpa's pride decreased even further. And then Karma Pakshi said, there must not be any Mahasiddha in Tibet with greater experience or realization than you. And when he said that, then Urjimpa said, I don't have any such qualities or pride of having like that. And then Karma Pakshi said, then you sang this song at the Urusur cave about how great you are. So sing that again. When he said that, then Urjimpa was like intimidated. And again, his pride was decreased. Now, after that, he thought, well, Karma Pakshi really is an incredible Mahasiddha, and only then he could receive many Dharma teachings from Karma Pakshi. Now, Karma Pakshi himself also said, you should go to the south, and then you'll bring great benefit to beings there. So he made that prediction to him. He also said, in the future, there will be someone you will need to raise. So at that time, you need to raise him well, and then you need to give this to him. And so he gave him a copy of the Pointing Out the Three Kayas text and also a black hat. Now at that time, what Ajahn thought at that time is he knew that there was a prediction of Dusim Khenpa that at Super Monastery there would be a third person to wear the black crown. So now two had already come. So he thought to himself, he was wondering if the third person must be, he's given me the black hat. So he thought, oh, I must be the third. And so he took and he put the black crown as himself. And Karma Pakshi said, it's not you. There's someone, I told you, there's someone who will come whom you have to raise, right? And so Karma Pakshi then said everything to Urjimpa that needed to tell him. But then after Urjimpa had met Karma Pakshi, then he went to Gangshumo, which is in the area of present-day Kirong. There were many people who had come from Lhasa who had come on a pilgrimage there. And they had all come up to Tsurphu, and they all came to ask for Dharma and with instructions from Karma Pakshi. Now at that time, Karma Pakshi gave them all Dharma and pith instructions. So there must be someone among you who knows about the pointing out the Dharmakaya and the Dharma. And so when they said that, when Karma Pakshi said someone there, Karma Pakshi gave him a bundle of fabric, and he gave him a full kilo of butter. And he said to him, in the future, I'm going to borrow your house. And so I'll speak about this again later. In brief, I've already explained that. So I mentioned this already. How Ranjan Dorje's father remembered the past and how Karma Pakshi had said that to him. So this is what he remembered. In any case, when Ranjan Dorje was the age of 4 and 5 in Tibetan Canton, he met Urjimpa. And because of his connections from previous Dharma and Samaya and Karma. Now, so the night before Urjimpa was going to meet him, and Urjimpa had a dream in which Rinpoche Karmapa came to him and taught him many liberation stories and much Dharma. And then, after he taught that, he said, I am coming. And make sure you understand. It's heard this really very clearly in his dream. And when he heard that, the next morning, he said to his attendants who were around him, he said, the emanation of the Rinpoche Karmapa will probably come today. So you need to get ready to greet him with a parasol and music and so forth. But Urjimpa thought to himself, actually, I need to examine whether this really is the emanation of Karma Pakshi or not. And so he had a high throne arranged above his own, thinking, if he is my guru, then he'll be able to sit on above me. But if he is not, he won't be able to. When Urgyenpa's attendants saw Chichapal and his parents come in, they thought, this must be the one that Urgyenpa was speaking about. This must be the emanation of Karmapachi. Now, at that time, there probably weren't that many people coming, so this must be them. So they immediately began to play the music and invite them inside. And once they'd brought them inside, then this 4-year-old boy didn't prostrate to the Lama Drupchen Urgyenpa. And instead, he just strode ahead without any hesitation and just climbed onto the high throne and sat on it. And when he did, Urgyenpa said, "What are you doing, you badly behaved boy?" And when he said that, the boy said, "My previous birth was your guru." And then after he said that, then he got off the throne, and then only then did he prostrate to Urgyenpa. So actually, I was your guru in the previous life, but in this lifetime, you must please be my guru. Then after this, the Drupchen Urgyenpa asked this Tulku many questions to investigate whether he actually was the Tulku of Karmapachi. To give an example, when Urgyenpa said, "Tell me your life story," then the boy said the Bardo liberation story, which describes the events that occurred while he was in the Bardo. So if you're Karmapachi's, if you're the Karmapachi's emanation, then tell me the events around when I met the Guru Karmapa. And then the boy said the verses, and the basic meaning of them is that when you came to see me, we spoke about Northwest India, and that time we talked about the description of Bodh Gaya, and we had a lot of discussions about Dharma, right? And so he recited many verses describing this. Then the next day, Urgyenpa continued to examine him. He said, "You say you're my guru. If you're my guru, then you need to be able to read. So please read these." So then he took a piece of a page from a text, and sometimes the boy could just read it without any hesitation. Sometimes he had to spell things out. In any case, sometimes he was had no problem, and sometimes he had to spell things out. So Urgyenpa started to laugh, and he said, "I've never seen anywhere read in a more funny way than you." And then Urgyenpa said to him, "How old are you?" He said, "I'm 4 or 5 in Tibetan counting." And Urgyenpa said, "If you were born on the 8th day of the 1st month of the monkey year, well, my guru passed away on the 3rd day of the 9th month of the sheep year. So in between those two, there are only 4 months and 5 days. So you can't be my Lama. Because the child has to be in the womb for 9 months, right? So you can't be my guru," he said. And then the response that the child made was that my consciousness entered the body in the womb 5 months after the child had been conceived. And the reason for that is, I even said when I was Karmapachi, I called an assembly of the Sangha. And I said, "I've already said my previous consciousness has already gone to Ganshurmu, so I shall not stay for long. So you should ask me everything that you need to ask about." And so Kyle I'll only wait for 3 days. But there wasn't anyone who came in those 3 days to teach the Dharma. And he said, "So in the past, I said this. And you probably heard about this event, didn't you?" So that's the reason why he said that. So even before Karmapachi passed away, he said he had already sent his consciousness off. And then Urgyenpa said, "Well, what other events do you remember?" And then the child said, "Well, after I passed into nirvana, I first went to the realms of the gods, and then I came back to the world. In a Tulung Patsang monastery, there was an old couple who were crying over the corpse of a boy who had died at the age of 5 or 6. the boy had died, and they had laid it out, and they were crying. And so I thought, if I had entered the corpse of that boy, and then I could benefit sentient beings. And so I entered them. And when I opened up my eyes, when I looked at them, then the two old parents said the eyes of the dead looking at the living is a bad omen. And so they poked his eyes with a needle, and they threw ashes in them. And so that time the eyes had been ruined. And if he didn't have all his faculties, then he wouldn't be able to benefit beings with that body. And so at that time, I didn't take birth, he said. And so Ujin said, I'm going to send someone to check whether or not that story is true. They immediately sent a messenger to check about the events. When the messenger came back, then he said that it occurred just as the boy had described. Later, when Rangjung Dorje went to Tsapun, then Tsapun was in the area of Tulung in central Tibet. So those two old parents who had stabbed his eye in the past offered him a cow and 10 bushels of barley, and they confessed to him. So Rangjung Dorje himself related these events. Now, there are many, Ujjimpa talked about many other suggestions. And just say there must be other events, so you must know them also. What else can you say? And so the boy said, while I was in the womb, my father said, I had a dream that we're going to have a boy. And then my mother said, and the women say that if it's a boy, it won't move, but if it's a girl, it will move. Now, this one that's in my womb, it won't stay still for even a minute. It's always moving, so it must be a girl. And I heard them say this. And I also saw and heard outside forms and sounds and so forth without any impediment, without any obscuration, even when I was in the womb. And Ujjimpa says, like, you're a big liar. You're always lying. There's no way that can be true. And so he immediately called his parents. They called his parents. I want to check you out. So they called his parents. And when the parents had arrived, then Ujjimpa asked them, when this boy was in the womb, did you ever talk about whether he would be a boy or a girl? So he asked them. They said, that they had. And he said, well, what did they say? And when he asked them that, they said, we had this conversation, and it was exactly as the boy had described. And so Ujjimpa said, in the past, there was the monk King Chirimpa who was unaffected by the stains of the womb. In Tibet, it is you who are unaffected by the stains of the wound. Aside from you, there probably never been anyone else who has been affected by who has not been affected by the stains of the womb. So he was really happy about this. He gave him the bodhicitta vows and the lay precepts. And when he did that, he said, my guru's secret name was Rangjung Dorje, so I shall also name you Rangjung Dorje. And from that time, he had the name Rangjung Dorje. He also said in the future, the Rinpoche Karmapa said that in the future someone will come whom you have to bring up. So you must be the one I said I must raise. And so he also said that I should give you these things, the black crown and the text for them pointing out the three kayas. So he gave the text and such that Karmapa had given to Rangjung Dorje. Now, when Rangjung Dorje reached the age of 7, he went forth with Kundin Khenpo Sherab as a Khenpo. At that time, the head of Tsrupa Monastery was Nyere Gendun Bum, and he saw the face of Avalokiteshvara, who said, this tulku will perform vast benefit for beings. And so he made this prediction. So Nyendre immediately wrote a praise and a verse and took many offerings. And he sent someone particular to Upper Dingri to bring him to Tsupa. Now, I don't need to say any more about that today. Now, next I would like to speak about Rangjung Dorje's face appearing in the moon. Now, Karma Pakche had previously been the guru for the Yuan dynasty Emperor Kublai Khan. And Ujjimpa had also been invited by the emperor, and who also followed him as his main guru. Likewise, during Rangjung Dorje's time, there was the Yuan Emperor Wenzong, who also had faith in the Dharma, and as the previous tradition, he sent the state Lama Kunga Gyaltsen and others to invite Rangjung Dorje. But as Rangjung Dorje was on his way to China, there were some bad omens on the way, so at that time, Rangjung Dorje probably understood that the emperor would not live for long, so he returned to his seat at Supa Monastery. And shortly thereafter, Wenzong actually did pass away. And then Rangjung once again traveled from Central Tibet to China, and he arrived in the capital of China at that time, Dadu, in the 10th Tibetan month of 1332. Now, at that time, the emperor was the Yuan Emperor Ningzong. Now, he saw that there was an obstacle to the emperor's life, and so he made a prediction, and just as he predicted, the Yuan Ningzong passed away no more than 43 days after he had acceded to the throne. At that time, Ningzong's younger brother was far away in the region of Guangxi. And Rangjung Dorje made the prediction that 6 months later, he would become the emperor. Now, just as he had predicted in 1332, then Yuan Shundi acceded to the throne. But in actuality, it was Togun Timur who took the throne. Generally, between the time of Kublai Khan passing away and Yuan Shundi, there had been 45 years, but during that time, there also had been 10 emperors during that period. And so at that time, the emperor is not living long, and so the emperor asked him for a method to extend his life. And Rangjung Dorje said that at Samye Chimpu, there was the life water of Guru Rinpoche. If you could get that, then the emperor would be able to live a long time. So in 1335, Rangjung Dorje returned to central Tibet, and he went to Samye Chimpu, and he extracted the Guru's long life water as a treasure. Then in 1336, he returned to the Yuan capital, and he gave the emperor the long life water and bestowed a long life empowerment on him. And so this Yuan emperor, Togun Timur, became the Yuan emperor with the longest reign. His reign lasted for 36 years. Then in 1339, on the 14th day of the 6th Tibetan month, Rangjung Dorje said that there was something he had to say, and he went to they had a sculpture, the Chakrasubhara mandala, and he circumambulated. Then he sat down on a cushion, he gazed into the sky and joined his palms. He saw that many Kaji gurus and gatherings of Yedam deities and heroes and dakinis had assembled, and he instructed everyone to arrange and give vast offerings. Then Rangjung Dorje to profound the self-ascension, and then he did the hand offering of Amrita. After he did that offering, he then gave some of the Amrita to everyone who was there, and they were all delighted. Then he recited the root mantra of Chakrasubhara and played his Dharma drum, and then next, he said to everyone else, this yogi must go to another realm, so you all must be diligent in your Dharma practice. And then without showing any aging or showing any sign of sickness, he passed away into nirvana. Now, the day when he passed, the day after, at evening, Rangjung Dorje's face was seen in the full moon. And so this is how the Rangjung Dorje's face in the moon occurred. And so it says about this in the Red Annals, a Tibetan history. On the evening of the 15th, the leader of the Kari Duden Timur came to meet the emperor. So this is a bodyguard of the emperor. So they took turns, and it was his turn. And so the leader of the bodyguards, when he looked at the moon was rising, and when he looked at the moon, he saw the Rangjung Dorje's complete body, and then behind him there was a golden stupa. So when he saw this, not only did he say it, but at that time there were 18 other bodyguards whose turn it was to be on guard that night. They also see it, and they all prostrated. And when they all passed the news up, and they passed it to the emperor, all of his ministers and courtiers went outside, and they looked up, and they all saw Rangchen Dorje in the moon. And so they said that they had even more faith in Rangchen Dorje than they had when he was alive. And this became very well known for this. And then at this time, on the emperor's commission, there were artists in the palace who painted 2 paintings. At that time, there were no cameras, so they took 2 paintings. Now, one of the paintings was kept by the emperor, and he had as much faith in it as he had for Rangchen Dorje himself. And the second was sent to Tsurpo, and later, when they're developing the Karma Dorje style, then the main example they used for developing the style was the painting of Rangchen Dorje's face in the moon that came from that time. And at that time, there were also many other people who saw this Rangchen Dorje's face in the moon. The Blue Annals, the Tibetan history, also says that when they are shown the Lord of Dharma's face in the orb of the moon, the emperor and his retinue were inspired and felt intense faith. And also, according to the Dharma history, the 1,000 light rays that opened the eyes by Paktu Chenga Sungam Jelsen, at that time, everyone at Datu saw him in the moon, and they all prostrated and make offerings. So everyone in the capital could see him. So I think that this is enough for introduction to Rangchen Dorje's life for now. And so I hope that you are all well and happy.